Bueno, hola a todos, pues ya me conocéis, con alguien he hablado y pues en principio iba a dar la ponencia en español, pero luego decidimos en inglés por ser más exótico, así que no, es que siempre además la doy en inglés, así que bueno, he dicho mejor, así lo mantenemos un poco más como fue concebido. Así que las preguntas sí que las podemos hacer en español si queréis, pero como queráis. Luego ya veremos. Entonces, yo siempre puedo hablar muchísimo, así que trataré de no pasar todas las diapositivas que he hecho porque son un montón, pero muchas son visuales, así que no os asustéis. Y bueno, quiero dejar una parte final para preguntas y bueno, me gustaría dejar por lo menos unos 20 minutos también para dejarle un poco de espacio a preguntas que antes no se hicieron porque no tuvimos tiempo. Así que bueno, ya veremos. En fin. Empezar. Mi ponencia es esta: Personal Branding, Identity and Social Media, and Conventional Marketing Tips for the Translation and Interpreting Industry. Because all we want is to get a smashing online persona. So that's pretty much what it will be. I have created an hashtag for that. So apart from the Traduemprende that we've been using today, you can also, instead of tagging me on Twitter, you can use the Rainy Branding hashtag. So that's probably easier. Okay, let's go. Let me see if I can. Right. So before starting, I just wanted to have, to give a big thank you to Leon Hunter for organizing, for having me, for just organizing all this event, which is free, which is great. And it's something that doesn't really happen anywhere else so often. So I think it's a good idea. Because it can actually open the horizons to many other topics that we can then take as a spin-off. And so it's good to be all here and relatively free. So it's good. So mil gracias y ya vamos a seguir. First of all, quick contest. Did you get my little papers? Someone did give the papers. Well, if you didn't get one, you can write on your own piece of paper. And basically this contest was based on coffee because, as you may know, I have one of those customized cups with Rainy London logo. Unfortunately, I don't have any more because they've been proving very popular, so I just ran out for now. But we're still going to do the contest, and I would like you to think about a day without coffee is like, then you give me your choice, you write it down, and you can win these. So hopefully you'll be creative enough. That's the main point. Try to think about it all the time you need. So that is creative. And the previous winner gave it a go and said, a day without coffee is like My Little Pony with no sparkle. So where's the magic? So she won the cup. She's enjoying it, drinking proper espresso. That's great. So, great. So think about it, and, just at the end of it, we'll just see who we pick. So who's Valeria? I don't want to be too boring because you probably know something already, but basically this is a bit of a summary. Initially, I basically simultaneous and conference interpreter, which is what I actually love doing more. But as you may well know, the market is a bit up and down for everyone, so especially in this past 3 or 4 years. And I said, you know what, I can't really live only of interpreting, which would be great. And I know many people who actually do live of interpreting only. But it all depends on your combination as well. So if you work especially with especially rare language, then it works much better for you. But because I mainly translate into Italian, so the market is not exactly that great at the moment for my combination. But, you have to do something more. You have to be versatile. I do believe in being versatile as much as you can. So that's why I went full-time as a translator in 2006. And I decided that I had to fine-tune my skills to also be a translator because, as you know, they're pretty much different things. And at first, the first couple of months, I was like, yeah, I like that word, I'm going to use that. But then it wasn't exactly the word I needed, so I had to realize that it wasn't as easy, as immediate as interpreting usually is. So past that, I moved to UK in 2007 because my partner works there. So I said, well, at least it's not a foreign country I don't know the language of, so I can move there. And I created Rainy London Translation in 2008. So that was the major turning point where I sat and I decided to go a bit about what we've been talking today. So saying, okay, I'll give you the go for 6 months, because that's what I did, basically. I started out in like in the typical bedroom, like a student with your laptop sitting on your bed, not even a desk or anything. And I thought, well, I'll give it a go. and see how it goes. If in 6 months I don't make my first million, then I'll just quit. So I'm still trying to get there, but at least I'm still in the business, which is very good, because considering I started in 2007 and then bam, we had the crisis, or well, the so-called, whatever you want to call it, but it was bad news for everyone everywhere. So I thought, well, if I can make it through that, then it's good. And the first month I made probably 50 euros, which is not too bad as a first month, but then it went better, so yeah, I'm not starving. So yeah, and lots of services, so that's what I do. I was just talking earlier with Ola, a friend who actually interviewed me and Marta earlier, and she asked, how can you do all these things? And I'm like, well, I do them, but it's all under the same sphere, so I don't really... well, it's mainly these topics, so I won't ever do any medical translation or any medical interpreting. So I do several services, but the topic or the focus is always the same. So that's what I mean for versatile. Expertise, you see there, and Lourdes obviously talked about it earlier. But then over the years I thought, well, I really like being at the laptop every day, just not translating. So I thought, well, maybe I can start blogging, and I took my time because I wrote for a couple of months and nobody knew about it. I did get the random clicks, but not people I knew. And then I just came clean with it and started blogging. So it's all a bit of a passion. I like just being on my phone all the time, and that's the first thing I do when I wake up. So that's just madness, but that's how it works. So every one of you, I'm sure you have like a mania and you do that all the time, I just wake up with my phone, and that's the first thing, like one eye like that, checking Twitter, so that's it. But, because I've already said too much, you can check my About Me page, which is a sort of a graphic CV. Well, not even a CV, it's like a graphic profile with a big picture that you've seen already. It's actually on the poster. Thank Leon for choosing that one. Nice. So yeah, you can see that, something there. And then that's the new page, which is actually wrong. So it's really London branding, sorry about that. I just put it wrongly. But let's skip this. So us, we're translators and interpreters. So I believe we're a very special category, and you can't deny we are. So I don't take it no as an answer, so that's what we are. But people actually think that we never speak, that we rarely get in touch with the customer, that if we do, we're shy and we don't really go out there, that we lead a lonely, home-chained existence, with your laptop, and you're always glued to the screen and you never do anything else, which in some cases may be true if you have a very tight deadline. But if interpreters, we must spend most of our times in dark booths, and we're not seen by anyone, we're just there working all the time. And we must be shy, reserved, so that's so typical of us, right? We certainly only translate books. Oh, I get that question all the time. Like, so what books have you translated? No, actually, I don't really do books. I wish I could, but certainly not in a bunker like the recent Dan Brown sort of business. But I guess they were quite happy because I'm sure they were paid enough to be there for 3 weeks. But anyway. And then we obviously must be hopeless in marketing because, we just translate, right? That's what Marta said, I just want to be home and translate, and that's it. I don't even want to go out and see people. So that's the stereotype, But hang on, who said that this is what we are? I'm certainly not that. So, and this leads to what I'm talking to you about today. So branding, I'm sure you've heard about it. Lots of, it's a buzzword now. Everyone is talking about it, and we probably don't even know exactly what they mean, but it's splashed everywhere on every magazine, and this word is like, right, let's do some branding, let's do like a personal trademark or whatever. So we really need to understand what that is, and I just did as Elena did, and I just went online and checked the meaning on a Collins dictionary. So basically branding is a definition. So the act of giving a company a particular design or symbol in order to advertise what they sell, pretty much. So being products or services, but branding is something that represents something else that you want to sell or you want to place anywhere in the market. But what I would like to add, and I'm quoting David Airy, which is a great guy who does design, so he's not a translator, he's not a businessman, he's a designer, but that's one of the main branches I like to focus on. In this very interesting book, which is called Logo Love, is talking about branding and why branding counts. Branding counts because people often choose products based on the perceived value rather than the actual value of the thing. So I'm sure you've done that all the time and without even realizing. I'm sure you bought shoes just because you like the brand or because someone told you that they're great because the brand is great. And that's why you end up buying them. So it's the perceived value. It's what you've been instilled in your mind that the value that the product represents. So it's not exactly, you don't really know. I mean, unless you try a pair of shoes, maybe you buy a pair of expensive Louboutin, but they kill your feet. I mean, that's just a brand you buy because you're convinced that there's something behind it that tells you it's a good value. Branding is around us. That's why you buy stuff for branding. I mean, not even just buying, you're just appreciating things that have a brand. So that's why I want to ask you, can you name some brand off the top of your heads? So you can use the same little paper I gave you and write down 3. I'll do a Marta here. You have 1 minute and I'll count. So write them down now, because then you'll forget. So write them down now. Anything, can be anything. It doesn't have to be translation. It can be cars, it can be shoes, it can be whatever. Well, does this work? Anyone knows? Yay! Works. Otherwise, I'll have to click all the time. Right, so you got them? I don't know if it's a minute, but I'm not as precise as Martha, so I won't count, actually. Right, so if you got your 3 names, well, let's go. Actually, I have this, I have to remember. Right. Branding is around us and is for everyone, actually, because you will eventually end up getting or having or seeing or even liking something that has a brand on it. And that's a given, so there's nothing you can do. I mean, you may be trying to buy fair trade or whatever, but it's always going to be a brand anyway. Even fair trade is a brand now, I think, trademark. So, well, we're talking big brands, but not necessarily. So Coca-Cola, Nike, Chanel, I mean, I'm sure all of you know them, so I don't need to add anything. Apple, Esso, Cadbury, well, this is very UK-centered, but still, I'm sure that Corte Inglés, lo que sea, vamos, puede ser lo que quieres. National and international brands may seem very big, very distant, but actually they're still around us, and there's nothing you can do. But hold on a sec, what I'm talking about is a personal brand. So don't forget that, every one of these started with a person, so there's a person behind it, and it doesn't have to be a big corporation to just stop being a brand or to just being a brand. So you can start small with a personal brand, which is actually who you are. So that's the trick there. You don't have to think that being a brand means being a big corporation with white collars and people working at a desk. So that doesn't have to be. It can be, but I'm not really wearing a white shirt, Branding is this, what do we need it for? So that's the main question, because it's good and nice to talk about branding, but it's just a bit of a buzzword if you want, unless you give it some more meaning. So what I would say is that all of you, I'm sure, if you decided to become a freelancer and you set up as a freelancer, so I'm sure that cuando te das de alta, pues eso es lo que haces, ¿no? Aquí harás Hacienda, lo que sea. So we will do something with in England is the HMRC, then you will find your accountant, and this is what you do, these are the steps. And then you will get a desk, or maybe you already had a desk, but I didn't have it for maybe 6 months, so... Yeah, desk, chair, good chair. I'm sure you have your bank account, or maybe if you have a limited company, you have a business account because you have to have one, and keep it separate, as someone was saying before. Then you have your phone, you have a landline, internet, etc. But I'm sure that then you get there at the last little box and you're like, okay, let's find clients. Good. Where do I start? So what I'm telling you is that from small, we can always go bigger and bigger, because after all, if you remember, this guy here started in a garage with this other friend, and they were just building a computer, like from scratch. So the point is, you don't really need to have the whole structure in place at once. So it's just the idea is knowing why and what and how, like Marta was saying before. So starting from where you want to go, then you will eventually realize that you are already a brand. And from small, we go bigger and bigger, but what I'm talking about is visibility. That possibly, because obviously it's not a given, you have to work for it, and I can assure you it doesn't take a year, it may take 2, or maybe even 3, or maybe 6 months if you're particularly lucky. So I'm not excluding any opportunity, but I'm sure that you will get more visibility that will possibly lead to more clients, and then it will lead to more money. So we don't want to talk about it, but we all know that we do that for. So, branding, where do I start? So I'm sure that once you realize that you want to go into business, then you're like, okay, yeah, how do I start? So maybe some of you read my articles on the ITI Bulletin. I'm not sure whether you are a member of any other association outside Spain, but I've written a series on this. So they were split in different articles, and I've identified 4 points that basically are the main ones that you may want to follow in order to find your direction. The first one is identify your business. So the point is that your business has to project ideas, messages, concepts. There has to be something behind it, or something that represents it. So in my case, I chose translation. And trust me, it wasn't easy, because I just sat there for 3 days, and I've told this story many times, but it's always very funny for me, because I spent 3 days brainstorming, thinking about how I wanted to be perceived, and I decided that interpreting was a bit too limited, because I wasn't possibly going to do only interpreting, and I didn't want to be excluded by the big chunk of translation that possibly could come my way. So I thought, well, I'll choose a name that actually encapsulates many other concepts, and it's basically something that you can identify very easily. So translation is a bit of everything. It's a bit of a linguistic related word, even though it doesn't necessarily mean only translation or only interpreting. So I went for translation because it's more or less a clear concept, and it's easy to understand for my target language, which is basically Italian. So if they see translations, they will understand that basically it's more or less the same root. They know the word. They might have read it somewhere. So it's not completely, it doesn't look like completely absurd word. It's a common word. It's very simple. Anyone knows what a translation is, kind of, but not the quality, but at least what that is. Already with interpreting, it took me probably around 6 years to make my parents understand what an interpreter is. So I'm guessing translation is a bit easier. So yeah, common word, which is non-techy, everyone knows it, or, it's a very common one. And it defines a clear sector or industry. I'm not selling cupcakes. I'm not cutting hair. It's clear what I do, or at least what I'm supposed to do for many. So that's a clear concept that I went for. And it defines, well, it cannot be mistaken. So that's what I do, what translation is. But then again, it's all in the name. And the second point, it leads to here. Who are you? You want to choose a name. It may be your name. It doesn't have to be a fancy, invented name that you may choose. But you don't want to be a number, because otherwise, who will find you? How can you possibly stand out of the crowd? I hate this expression, but everybody uses it, because that's true. You stand out of a big crowd. That's what, you need to do. My choice went for Rainy London, which is a bit, it's a bit tricky. Everybody laughs at it, but then they kind of, they go, So that's sort of something a bit smart that people can think about. I went for Rainy London, and I tell you, it took me 3 days. So I asked anyone I knew, anyone who could possibly have something to do with translation, but also nothing to do with translation, so that I could have a fresh set of ideas I could take, I could pick. And I asked my parents, I asked my friends, I asked anyone. And it took me 3 days and lots of stumbling upon the path, because I had offers from my parents with horrible names. Like, how on earth am I going to use their name? My father came up with, what about gladiator translations? Seriously, Dad? Come on, gladiator? Nobody wants to be, I'm not going to wear one of those things. And come on, that's not going to work ever. But it was like calling me every 10 minutes, like, I got another one. No, no fancy, stupid names, I ended up with this, which is quite fancy or quite stupid if you want, but basically you have to brainstorm with as many people as possible, so from different backgrounds, so to make sure you're not just stuck with the same opinion, because if you ask only your parents, they may know what you like, well, not my father, just not the gladiator thing, but they may know what your taste is, they may end up giving you something that you can come up with yourself. Then you can even doodle it, maybe just doodling something, you come up with a good idea. Some people like to visualize things. Think about the target, because obviously if I were to choose something that was merely Italian, all my UK-based clients wouldn't even be able to pronounce it. I mean, most of the time I have to struggle to get my name right. So imagine, it's like Valerie with an A. Oh yeah, it does sound like malaria though. I mean, I get that all the time. And I said, yeah, okay, it's Val. So that's easy as short. But then again, the language, so the keyword. Do you want something that's rememberable? Do you want something that they can pronounce? You want something in German? I mean, if you work with Germans, it's great. But anybody else will be just cut out. They will never, ever pronounce it. So you have to think of all these things and make sure you can read it well. And it's easy for you to say, first of all, because you wouldn't want something that you can't yourself pronounce, right? It's all in the name, but you have to keep it simple, short and easy. KISS, right? I think this is what my Italian into English simultaneous professor used to tell us in the booth. So I don't want any crap there. I just want, short and simple and easy. So if you don't know what to say, shut up. That's the point. And I really like the acronym because that's how it's supposed to be. So not that Rainy London is actually very short, but I think it's quite... every word is short itself, so you can identify in that. Think of your readers. Can they pronounce it again? So especially with Spanish, you have to make sure that the pronunciation is easy for non-Spanish as well to read. Or, if it's only a very complicated name with lots of jotas, you can't really rely on that. So I would suggest you go simple. Then you have to be evocative, but, something that really reminds you of something that represents you. So not that I like the rain or anything, but I do like London, and London is, come on, rainy all the time. So that's the main feature. And every time I give my card to somebody, they giggle a little bit, and then they go, yeah, I understand why you chose that, it's clever. So they will obviously remember it. So it's probably not the most serious of names, but certainly, it makes an impression, which is what you kind of want to do. Make it represent you, yeah, but without being kitsch. So maybe you like the, kitties and puppies, but maybe don't go there. Yeah, like the butterflies Marta was talking about. They're nice, but not exactly your target. Unless you work with botanists or people who really like the nature, So make it represent you, make it appealing, but it doesn't have to be too trivial. Unless you really work in something that is trivial in a way. So if you work with a lot of fashion, for example, you may want to go all pink and frilly. That's fine if your audience actually may want to like that. So it all depends on the audience, on the target you want to achieve. Of course, if your business allows for it, go for it. What I like to take pride in is I came up with this word. It's not that I invented the word, of course. I didn't, but... This is actually a quite old-fashioned word. So if you say it in English now, smashing, people will look at you like, why are you using that 80s sounding word? Because apparently it's a bit old. People in the 80s used to go, oh, the party was smashing. Nobody would say it now. But that's, I like the word, and it actually summarizes what I want to achieve with my logos and with my identity. So it has to be short. Because, of course, if it's too long, you just sleep halfway through. Memorable, appealing, simple, honest, and then for the eye, I couldn't decide. I like innovative and iconic, so I went for both. Neat, yet graceful. So that's, in a nutshell, what you should be aiming for. I know it's a lot of material, but you can try and at least achieve half of them, and I guess you'll be on the right way. Of course, when you get a brand done, or at least when you think about a brand, you want to build trust, because brands, after all, are just a symbol of the trust that people put in you. You remember the quote I gave you before? It's actually the perceived value that you go for. It's not exact. I mean, you can't possibly know before you buy or before you go for something. Even if you buy translations, you probably been recommended someone. And if I go like, you know, Christina, she's a great translator, go for her. All right, but then until she actually delivers, I'm possibly not too sure that actually that's the right choice for me. So you believe that there is, you know, someone's reliable, and then you build trust because that brand gives you the trust you need to go ahead with that project. So I would say that the trust gives you, you know, it's given by the image and the identity that you've created for yourself. Even if it's not visual, it doesn't have to be, again, a logo, physical logo. It can be a concept or something that you build around the persona you want to represent, the concept you want to represent. This chart here, it's something that my partner, a designer, uses to pitch clients. So when he needs to understand what logo they want or what sort of identity they want to go for, he's created this chart. So I didn't do it. Sorry, it's not my pride, but he came up with this chart. So you can go and put an X or a dot wherever you feel is closer to what you want to achieve. And basically, you may want to have a logo or an identity. Let's say identity or branding that it's, I don't know, that looks expensive or that looks more serious, or maybe you want something sporty and adventurous. So you can just balance. But you don't really have to fill them all in. You know, maybe you couldn't care less of exotic, but for example, if you translate, well, I'm just making it up, but if you translate into Arabic and you're based in, I don't know, in the UK, maybe you want to have an identity that remembers about your country, so maybe you want something a bit more exotic. And then, again, we can be exotic somewhere else that is not exotic, so it's just a word, not saying that it has to be, you know, or belly dancing kind of thing, but still exotic or commonplace, so something that is completely the opposite. And this is a very good chart because you can have a great idea, but unless it's on paper, you can't really see it until it's ready. And sometimes, you know, for as much as you have the idea, you can't really put it on paper, and that's, you know, that's all right. You're not a designer. That's why that's why you actually want to look for one. So choose the look and feel of the logo or the idea you want to have, and then you can use it to talk to your designer to make sure that he or she gets exactly what you want. Maybe when it just starts doing it, it's not what you like or that you thought you may like. So that's also a good guide to realize what you want in the first place, because sometimes people have a great idea, but then in paper it simply doesn't work. No. You may want, again, the famous butterfly, but then you just see it as a logo and it's rubbish. So that it's supposed to even happen, you know. It's not all right when you go from mind to paper. Because anyone can create the idea or can create the logo, but you want it to be right. So you need to choose the right designer as well, because they can translate, no pun intended, your idea into an actual logo. But I want to talk about building trust a bit more, because I'm reading this very interesting book, and I'm quoting it afterwards as well, so no worries about it. And I'm not sure whether you're familiar with the John Lewis logo. It's a department store in the UK, and it's been long-standing business from the 20s. It's a bit like Selfridges, but not that luxury. I'm risking it, but it's possibly similar to the Corte Inglés, but I'm not too sure. To build trust, a name should be like this: easy to remember, but easily associated. So, of course, if you choose a very flashy name, it has to be something to do with what you do. Otherwise, it will be just a flashy name, and nobody will actually connect your face or your business to that name. Again, butterfly, whatever. It doesn't mean anything unless there is a link. That's why I chose translation. It could be interpreting, it could be linguistic services. But I wouldn't suggest to go very general, because otherwise people will not really understand what you do. Then, easy to read, but not trivial, as we said. It's a bit of a summing up. Easy to write down on the phone. I'm sure that you've been talking to some foreign clients. I mean, I do that all the time. And I said, I already struggle with my name, and I had to learn all the spelling system, like Alpha, Lima, India, Echo, etc. And I do that all the time. And some people don't even understand that one because it's the standard one, and they go like A like apple. And I'm like, that's not the standard, the standard system, but still. So yeah, just make sure that you can write it down yourself, because if you spend half an hour trying to spell it and people can't write it down, then you want to get an important email and you won't get it because it's wrong. So you have to make sure it's clear and easy to spell. Relevant, because, you know, maybe don't go for an Apple because it's a bit overrated these days, but it's a very good logo, but someone a bit better than us used it already, unfortunately. Better than us in marketing, I'm talking about, not better than us in translation, because actually Apple is quite bad at localizing its contents, and it's a real shame. So, yeah, well, if you go for an Apple, you have to make sure you understand why you go for an Apple. And again, it's the why that Marta was talking about. Why you do that? Why would you choose that color? What's the association of that color with something you want to convey? It has to be consistent, because stability means trust, and it gives you the added value that we were talking about. And it's a circle, so trust, value, value, trust, and then it's all that. And obviously it comes in with recommendations and word of mouth, and it's a circle. Then you have to be suited to the target and the language and the culture. And I'll give you a couple of examples. For example, John Lewis, if you go to the UK and ask anyone what John Lewis represents to them, they will probably come up with some of these words. I didn't come up with those. I read that in this very interesting book I'll be talking about later. So John Lewis stands for quality, stands for service, value, middle class, and also partnership. That is not there because it didn't fit. Basically, the brand is an household name, and everybody knows it, not necessarily because they shop there, because for some it's too expensive, but for many it's seen as a middle-class concept, because it's one of the only places that actually works as a cooperative or a partnership, so everyone who works there gets a share of the company. So that's why they have a very good retaining power, because they don't have a turnover of people who work there, because they want to stay in there, they want to build the brand, they want to believe, they want to go ahead and give their share and take their share as well. So, of course, that's a good example of what a brand is doing, because it's basically working by itself. It's not even a brand anymore. Everyone knows what it is, but not necessarily knows what the logo is. So the other thing that I want you to understand is that branding doesn't mean logo. So it's not the synonym. So it doesn't have to be an image or actually a logo type. Another good example. So, well, this is to say that John Lewis is much more than a brand. It's just something that people can relate to and they go for because they trust before they know the brand. Suited to target, London 2012 is a good example, but I think I had this. It's very important, don't laugh at the one on the right-hand side, but keep it there, I'll explain. Basically, this is the logo for the London 2012 Olympics, and I'm sure you all know it. But there was a big scandal a few months before the actual game started, because a Muslim extremism wing said that they could read Zion in the sign of the London 2012. I know it's a bit twisted, but yeah, Zion. And obviously they said that there was a conspiracy, pro-Israeli conspiracy, I don't know what. So they wanted the committee to take it down. Now, you have to get rid of the logo because it's not good for us. So that eventually they found an agreement, and the logo stood there, even if I'm not a big fan of it. So you have to make sure that what you produce in your name, or how you write it even, is not disturbing any other people in any other language. Maybe, you've seen online, I'm sure, some examples of stuff that was translated and has a totally different meaning in another language, and it's just not marketable, so it doesn't work. Recently there was this commercial, this campaign about go for milk or go milk, choose milk, something in America. And obviously, con leche, it's going to be a bit tricky in Spanish. So especially in Mexico and in other places, it was a very big challenge to localize that, to make sure it had the same meaning. So yeah, you don't really want to have a dick stick, thing. So that's explains by itself. So I think that's Korean, but I don't think they actually know what they're eating out there, right? Cool. So again, branding, and I'm repeating again, but it's building trust. So if clients believe in you, and if you believe in what you do, and you have a why in what you do, then again, you will be building trust and they will choose you because you're so cool and believe in that so much. They will believe as well, even if it's not true. But obviously, if it's not true, you're selling air, they will eventually realize and then say, look, but you're a bit cheeky because you're not really as good as you wanted us to believe. So obviously, it will come up. So I'm talking with quality in mind. So if you have the quality and if you're good, it will show and you will build trust. Brand is about meaning. Your brand needs to be the sum of all meanings that your possible audiences carry around in their heads and in their hearts. Sounds a bit daunting, but that's what I would like you to focus on. Simon Middleton is the author of Build Your Brand in 30 Days, which is a great book. You can download it on Kindle as well, where I'm reading it. Even in the first 4 or 5 pages, it was so enlightening, and it gave me the example of John Lewis as a brand that doesn't really work as a brand anymore because it stands for itself. Brands that are multifaceted, so they can live longer, like Nike, for example. They do lots of things, but if you think about it, they just do sports clothing. They have lots of activities, and they make you believe that you'll be better, that you can do it. So it's all about trust, the trust in what the brand can do for you and what you perceive yourself doing with that brand, or using that T-shirt, or going with a step counting watch. I mean, it's just about what you see in the brand. And a brand like that has many options, and again, we go back to the versatility, will be long-lasting. So that's the point. Again, you have the title there if you want it. There's also a second part of the title, but I just put the main title. So you can Google it and you come up in Amazon. So more multifaceted brands are more dynamic and long-lasting, like Nike, as I just mentioned. But you don't just want to be a translator, because basically Nike with no logo, think about it, it's just a swoosh. There's nothing to it. It doesn't really tell you what they do. You can do it. Yeah, okay, I can do, but what? What can I do? So if you take that off, and actually I know that brand was done for $35. That's the cost of the swoosh, $35. What's the name of the swoosh in Spanish? ¿Swoosh? Okay, se queda así. No. Porque en italiano se llama, ¿cómo se llama? Baffo, ¿no? En italiano, pero bueno. Como mustache, pero no sé. Think about it, because it's bound to have a name, but I don't know it. I know it in Italian. So, well, if you go from, if you remove the logo, what would Nike be? Would be just from just do it to just not much. There's not really much to it. So your brand has to represent your personality for as much as you can. I mean, obviously in the limits, because it enables customers to understand you, and then to trust you and communicate with you, which is actually why they will choose you. So that's all going towards you being found and being chosen for what you stand and for what you believe in. I know it sounds a bit, apocalyptic, but that's what it is. Just have to go far from a simple logo and convey a message. But how do you do it? You use a system of signs that are known as brands. So that's what it is. It's a bit of an introduction, but that's to just bring you towards the idea of brand. But again, you may tell me, look, I don't really need a logo or branding. I don't care. I don't even like it. It's just a buzzword. I don't want to spend any money on it. That's it. I'm just fine with my name. Okay. The question is, I have lots of clients already. Why should I even bother? And I will reply, 10 clients, imagine 10 clients buy from you today. Fine. Would they go back to you? What do you think? Based on the clients you have today, would they go back to you think, for the next translation? Yeah? No? Hello? Yes? No? Think so? You hope so? Yeah. But why? What are you giving them that anyone else is not giving them? So only if you have engaged them with the branding experience, which again, it doesn't have to be a logo. So a branding is your persona, what you're giving them, what you're offering them. There was the same reason why Marta was saying before that the clients choose her and she doesn't have competition. It's just because you project something, it's what you project about yourself that actually draw them to you. Only if you have engaged them in a branding experience, they will perceive stability and then growth potential and then loyalty and then longevity, which is what you want for your brand. or for you. Well, let's say for you. And that will make them choose, sorry, that will make them will choose you all over again. So sorry about that. In that case, they will choose you all over again simply because they know they can trust you. I'm still going to use the fingers. So I'm just going to leave it there. See? Right. So a bit more into the case study of mine, because I don't really want to say that you have to do like I did. So this is just a case study explaining what's my experience. But obviously, I'm not a marketing expert. So I'm just showing what I've done, which was done with no consultancy of anyone. But I do recommend that you get a consultancy because, you know, when you talk to a professional, it's actually much better. And it actually shows most of the time. So branding, logo, and color palette. So the third point out of the 4 is to get a logo or a custom font. So again, don't get stuck with the idea of a logo as an icon. So it doesn't have to be. My choice was the London Eye. Again, we did brainstorm a bit. And we went for a custom-made font, which means that you can't download it anywhere. It was done by a designer specifically for me. So there might be something similar, but that specific font with that specific size and rounding and spacing between letters was done for Rainy London. As you see, the first line was a first round of tries, and I did like the idea of a half wheel, but then it was a bit too complicated because the details were so good that they would go lost. Anyway, when you print it very small. The second line was so clever, but I'm sure most of you won't get it. What is that? Do you know what's that little symbol? Second line? Sorry? Yeah, it is. It is an umbrella. But when I ask, most people are not sure. So that's not what I want. I want them to be like, that's the one. That's it. And it's really cute. And actually, you can see it's fairly creative. But it was a bit too much. It was a bit too designy, you know. So yeah, it's a good design, but it doesn't work for me. The third one was the best because actually I wanted something that could be used by itself as a standalone icon. And I think that in the end, for as much as I did like the pink, it was a bit too much. So I'm not that girly, and I rarely wear pink. So I thought, not my thing. But it does look cute with the blue and the pink. I understand the point. That's why he proposed that color to me. But then the palette we went for, I will start again. The Be Clear, because if the first choice, the first solution was too small, and you will lose all the details when you print it out, and you don't want that. Because all the work is in the logo, and then if you can't see what it is, what's the point? Bigger is better. Again, that was too small. So if you go for a logo that has detail, you have to make sure that it can brought down to as much as simplified as you can, so that you still understand what it is. The logo icon or fav icon, which is that little small icon that you get next to your address bar on your browser. So that's if you look for it when you go home, then you will see a little London Eye there. And you have to ask yourself, does it work as a standalone, without the Rainy London wording? Is it recognizable? Will people recognize what it is? And I asked many people, and they all said, yeah, that's a London Eye, isn't it? Yes. I was like, yes, that's good. So this study obviously is done by a professional designer, and it took several hours, if not days, and tries and different colors and combinations. And as you see, it's also featured in black. Why do you think that is? Because when you print it, nobody's going to print it in color. Come on. You may want to print it in color, but your clients won't. If they even print it, because mine get a link and they don't even have to print the receipt or the invoice. But if they, for example, in Germany, I know they want a stamp, they want a paper version. So depending on your target, you may want to get it right. Because if in black and white it doesn't work, then you have to change something because it's simply not working. So there you have a little link to my designer's portfolio, which is actually, don't ask me about the 3 Bs, because that's supposed to be 3 Bs. Dribble. 3 of them. Because I got asked from a translator, she told me, are you sure that's not a typo there? There are 3 Bs. I'm like, no, there have to be 3 Bs. So thank you, but no thank you. Branding, logo and color palette. The 4th point is find your palette, because you may like pink, but then you realize it doesn't work in your logo. And my choice went for these colors, which is, I'll call it a brick red and navy blue. And if you think about it, these are the Union Jack colors. So it still gives a hint of, the UK, which is my main source language. You have to identify the concept that you wish to convey. It can be reliable, so you will go for classic tones, maybe like this, or maybe even more corporate if you want. Or then you can have, you may want to convey wow factor, so you will go for maybe lemon, neon, yellow, or something. Corporate style, you will go for cleaner lines and a darker tone, like the brown Marta talked about, or tone sur tone, matte, shiny, formal. There's so many combinations, but you have to discuss them, because most of the time, until you see them done in the logo, you may want to have something that looks glittery or shiny, but then it's rubbish and it doesn't work. So you always have to look at the final, or at least in between results, to choose if you want to go ahead with them. Think in black and white, we just said that. In terms of the number of shades and colors, I wouldn't recommend more than 2. Because again, most of the time it'll be black and white. And in the other cases, you have to make sure it's not too much. Because you also have to consider that when it's online, it's going to be a different color. Because it works in a way that they all get distorted a little bit, they're all altered. So the colors that you choose on a palette, like in a Pantone palette that designers use, is not going to be what you see on screen, because the screen is always going to use a different resolution, it's going to have a different pixelation, so it's always going to look different. So go for something a bit simple that's not such a unique color, because otherwise it's going to be a bit of a trouble. And then no more than 2, because if all the effect is conveyed by the colors, again, when you're out of toner or when you want to do black and white, it doesn't make any sense. So it's good to play the flag thing, but not play only on that, because otherwise it'll be a loss of meaning around the corner. And 2 are fine. 2 are more than fine. If you use the white background again, it's going to give you much more scope for actually combining. There are actually 3 colors, but 1 is a neutral one, so you win. Again, how to use it. So far, you may have a bigger idea, like a wider sort of picture, a bigger picture of how we got there. So, yeah, again, it doesn't have to be exactly like that, but as I mentioned, this is my experience, and I thought it may be interesting or at least inspiring for you. You have to make it work for you, so you can actually go for a more conventional sort of marketing or a more innovative approach, which is what I like. So I went for both, actually. I can't lie. I went for both. So I have a more conventional approach based on who I'm talking to, on who I'm meeting with. So if I go to the famous lawyers meeting that we said before, I'm not going to bring, the fancy cards with the shiny back. I'm going to bring the classic ones. And then if the client really likes me, then I'm going to be a bit more funky and I'm going to give them the other cards. So it depends how you see your target and what you like as well. So the more conventional approach is business cards. That's your best friend. So you have to have tons. Give them to anyone. Anyone, did I say? Flyers and website articles as well, which is a very good way to actually, with the blogging now, everyone can write anything, and if it's good content and relevant content, anyone is going to read it. So just spread the word and talk about what you do in a conventional way if you want. Even printed. I write on the bulletin, which is a very sort of formal, way of doing the business. So if you want to be a bit more innovative, you can go for gadgets, and then you can use all the social media doing all sorts of innovative ideas, like, I don't know, I will talk about it later, so if I have time, yeah, I do. But again, the identity, this is what it looks like for me, and I'll show you. I have that bag full of goodies, say. Business cards, again, they're your forever friends, and you want to have them everywhere, in all pockets, and you just want to be full of business cards. And this is what they look like, and you see the shiny effect on the back. That's actually the classic one I have, so the most corporate one, so to say. The back, I still wanted it to be a bit funky, otherwise it was that boring, and I don't want that. But then again, you can be versatile and have more versions. And now with Moo, or I'm sure there is a Spanish supplier that you can find that can do cards, Vistaprint, whoever. Just don't get the done with Vistaprint for free thing on the back, please. Because someone once told me, you know what, I did them on purpose. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, because on the back, when my clients see, they think that I care about money and I didn't splurge on the cards. And I was like, not sure what clients are going to like that, but if, up to you. So I wouldn't recommend it because it's just cheap. I mean, it's probably €5 more to get rid of that free with Vistaprint kind of wording. So it's not really that you're going to go bankrupt. And it gives me the idea that you actually put some thought in it and you just didn't go for the first option. So I wouldn't go for a cheap template because it's just cheap. I mean, let's talk about it. So, yeah, I mentioned Moo. I've done the formal ones with printing.com, which is a UK-based agency, business. They're not the cheapest, but they're not enormously expensive. And you can get even 1,000. The first time round, I printed 1,000. I'm still having them now. I'm still using them now. But it's good because it's great quality and you have plenty of choice with the effects. So what I went for is a bit of a thickness, a bit of a higher thickness. And the spot UV, that's the effect on the back. So when you do this, it reflects the light and it's very cool. And everyone goes, ooh, it reflects the light. And that's a good icebreaker because if they like your card, then they're going to talk about it and they're going to be drawn a bit more to ask you what you do. Otherwise, they'll just say, oh, this is so boring. Just put it in my pocket. So that's a fact. I mean, people do that all the time. So I would recommend that you go for the wow factor at first. Maybe do a run of 200 or 500 if you want, not 3,000, but, you can choose that. And be creative because people really like to have fun. It's like the party we heard about before. Nobody goes to the boring ones. And if they do, they leave after a second. So, and again, for the contents, I decided that I didn't want my address on it simply because I wasn't even living in London. So people actually was expecting me to live in London. So I decided, no, I'm not going to put the address. First, because I don't want any stalker coming to my house. And that can happen, yeah, especially if you work in court. They can actually find you, not good. Then you can decide whether to put Skype or Twitter or those kind of things, but just don't have it too crammed because too many information are not good either. And people would just go, whoa, so much on this, I don't need to know all that at first. I just want to know the name, what she or he does, and how I can call her or write an email. So I would say 4 or 5 items and not more. Then you can choose to have the logo on the right, on the left. I mean, usually that's where the eye goes. So on the right is better because they'll see that, and then eventually will go down towards your name, which is a bigger font, as you see, compared to the other ones. Then on the right you have the small mini Moo cards, which is a good option. With €20 or €30 you can get maybe 100, I guess. And I changed the colors, as you see, with the Italian flag for the Italian courses that I'm running. So that's a different take. Of course, corporate approach is fine. I mean, if that's what you do, especially if you are traductor jurado, what I do is to actually send my translations on this header paper. And because I'm a limited company, you actually have to have your name and a register address. And if you have my little paper, compliment slip, you'll see all there. So that's a look and feel, and that's the compliment slip that's paired with the actual letterheads. So you can still be innovative, and that's why I put a red stripe, because it's still in line with the palette, but it gives a little bit of something. So it's not just plain white. You can do more conventional corporate approach, still keeping it low-key, but with different options. So these cards that you'll see afterwards are different sizes and thickness, but they all have the same logo and more or less the same structure, which is the image I want to convey. On the bottom on the right, I have a little bit of a different selection of small cards that I like doing from time to time when I run out of one type. I just want to keep it interesting. And the newest one is the branding one, which is my new spin-off sister website. My idea is also this one. You probably know the blonde in the center, which is Teresa, who's mentioned this morning as well from September Translations. So this is a bit of a different thing I'm doing, because if you ever seen the Hug Me character, basically I went for gadgets and created the Oyster Cards wallet for London Underground. And now I'm getting everyone I can to actually take a picture of them with that. So if some of you have it, do it, because you still haven't done it. And you see, well, my father was in New York, and then someone else was in Panama, obviously with the Panama hat. and then South Africa, and that's actually Stockholm under the snow. And then that's a Christmas card, and someone obviously decided to go for a more creative option. And this is a gallery on Facebook, so there's an hashtag, and you can tweet it, and it's something that engages you to be more creative. Hello? Hello? You can be creative, so the other approach against the conventional one is to be a bit more innovative. That's on the left-hand side is a screensaver that we've done for the 2 years of Rainy London's website. Actually, this year we are 4 already, but in a month there's going to be a new web, so hopefully will be, you'll know about it when it launches. And this character was created in 2010 because I wanted something a bit different than the stuffy usual logo, for as much as I like it, but I wanted something a bit different, and all the cards are very cheesy, and I didn't, ever find something I liked. For as much as the charity ones are interesting, I thought I could do a small run of personalized cards for my best clients. And I ended up with this character, which is very versatile, and now using it as an avatar for every other social media I have. So you can do screensaver with this fresher branding item, and it's a different alternative that doesn't necessarily have to be on your business cards, but you can use it as a graphic or as an image, as an illustration, to just spice it up a little bit. So screensaver, it's ideal for flyers, events. You can put some text or speech bubble around it. Stickers or gadgets, you can do that. Very small to close your envelopes. It's up to you. Obviously, I get asked, yeah, all this is cool, but I work with doctors all the time, so they don't really expect me to come up with this, Fair enough, you don't have to do this. It can be any illustration. I've done recently, maybe not recently, like 4 years ago, another card with a robot saying robots don't do translation. And that was done for a specific conference I went to. So it was a flyer with information on the back saying choose a professional. So it can be a funky image, but it doesn't have to ruin your reputation if you don't want to go around with a funny image. So obviously take inspiration, but you don't have to do exactly like a character yourself, That's supposed to be me with a little bit of a fringe, but yeah, hopefully I look a bit better than that. Stickers, gadgets, and you can use it for Facebook, for Twitter. It's great because it's a square, and you can create it. Your designer can create it with the right scale and the right pixels, so it doesn't blur, and it's great. Again, perfect for square profiles, but make sure that it's the right pixels, because otherwise you'll be all bleeding. Gadgets, again, you see the cups that unfortunately I couldn't show here. Then the Oyster Card wallets, which proved very popular, but I have some here to show you. That's a sticker that I had on my previous phone, which was so cool, and everybody thought it was a bumper. All done online with suppliers that you can access, that you don't have to buy in bulk, you don't have to spend more than 50 euros to do any of this. I don't know, the run of the pins was probably 60 euros in total. You can invest not all at once. Obviously, this is done over years. You can do 60 euros now, and then you can set a budget. Say, I have £100, I have 100 euros, and I want to use them this year to do this gadget or this marketing material. I would suggest you start maybe with cards or even pens, if you like that. Some people like pencils. They're really good. I thought they were a bit boring, so I just didn't go for them, but because I have plenty of other pens. But maybe you can go for that. Or even mugs. Some people do mugs. For example, our friend Anna from Miotrad also did a mug, and I got one at home. Or, yeah, you can go for anything you like, really. These sites are full of ideas. Coffee cups, obviously, it does coffee cups, but Stay Sourced is great. They have all sort of gadgets, from tote bags to USBs, everything that you can come up with, umbrellas, everything. Skinizzy.com, they're doing covers for iPhones or other phones as well, or laptops, stickers of all sizes, and you can put your own picture, your kid's picture, your puppy picture, or whatever you can upload. And then Camaloon is actually Spanish. You may know it. It's where I got the badges from, the little pins. So it's a Spanish, I think they're Barcelona or something, but I can't be sure. But they're definitely Spanish, so quite affordable. I think I got 100 pins for 20 euros or something. You just have to make sure that you upload the right picture and the right size, and everything is done to their measurements. And now we'll be talking about the logos I like. There's so many that I like. I chose some translation ones that I really fancy. And, want words? Obviously, it's not even a logo. It's just a font. So that, again, it doesn't have to be a logo per se. Then Verbatim is a friend, and it's a classic look. She works in a literary and gas and oil sector, so it's very serious, has to be trusted, but she still wanted to be funky, so we had the UV spot on the white. And that's also, the V is a quill, so she works on books, and the colors are the Russian flag, which is what she does, English into Russian and Russian into English. Then again, Astra translation was an existing logo that Fabio, my partner, designer, revamped. The idea was that she's called Ana Sanchez, so A-S, trans, so it's all a very good name, all in all. But she didn't like the design, so we kept the stars, which is Astra in Latin, and we just changed the colors and revamped the image. So that was a very good example of something that was good per se, and then we revamped. Rina Neman, she's working from Hebrew into English and back. And it's nice because it's that type, that font looks like Hebrew. It is not, but it's just the idea that it gives you. So it's very short, very small, and actually it looks like an N. So that's a logo. Mastermind is a fresh new logo that I say we, but my designer did just last week. It just launched, and Kasia, who is the owner, she works in medical translation and technical translation, so she wanted something fresh, but still a bit corporate that can be trusted, and that's why we came up with the idea of the mind and the mastermind, because it's a very hard-working task to get the medical right, but it's still quite modern and fresh. A bit of, autobombo aquí. Maybe you know about the freelance box, maybe you not. If you don't, I would say like Marta did, you're not going out of here without checking the website, which is an holding page for now, but it'll go live hopefully next week. So in short, I just want to talk about the logo. I'll tell you about the freelance box later. The freelance box, it's an idea that it's basically something that has to look modern and new and fresh. I didn't want to have a stuffy image. Freelance Box is going to be mainly London-based courses for freelancers. So the practical side, we're not going to run any course on how to translate this and that, but we're just going to help with what we know, me and Marta, what we know about how to get it right for your business. So how to do the marketing, how to do the financial part, how to even do invoices, because some people ask me, what should I put in the invoice? So how do I don't know, how do I quote a client for interpreting? They don't know. And it's a shame because it's easy and we can tell you. So that's what I wanted, something a bit fresh. And I came up with this name, and I thought that the box was something that has everything in it, and then you open and you get all the ideas you need. So I wanted something that looked like a box, but it wasn't necessarily too boxy. So that's why we came up with it looks like a bolt, but it's in perspective is a box. So I really liked the identity, and I wanted the color that wasn't too strong but still was powerful, and I think that this sort of tangerine red was the good idea. And then you see the business cards that I'm sure Marta has with her, so we can show you some. And that's the look of the website, which is still not live, but as I mentioned, is going to be soon, so don't miss it. This is just a bit of a provocation because most people don't know anything about branding, and if they do, they don't care. And these are polls that I took from Pros. And has having your own website increased your turnover? Most people don't have one. But why is that? I mean, of course, the representation of the poll is not so good because it's not many people, it's 300 people, and it's a very wide range of people that you can find on Pros, especially, I mean, not to be judgmental, but most people are on the cheap side because it's something that you start with, and then if you don't know how to use it, you just get caught in it, and it gets cheaper and cheaper. So it's a bit of a dangerous and good tool. You have to make sure you make the most of it without being caught in the web. But then again, it's not very representative, but it's something, and it tells me that 55% don't have a website. And on the right side, do you have a logo for the company or for yourself? No. Again, it says logo, but it doesn't have to be a logo, as I mentioned before, and I hope you actually, got. What I would say is now that you have the branding, use it well and get a website or a page or an About Me profile. It doesn't have to be a website. I mean, I would suggest that you actually go for a website, but these days you can go on WordPress, get your own domain, and if you maybe like the HTML, you can even do it yourself. I don't recommend doing it yourself because it can end very badly, and it looks even cheaper than the money that you wanted to save. So I know that starting out, especially, you may not have the money to invest in a website, but start with something simple. Maybe a very good LinkedIn page or a very good About Me page would be enough. Even a very good pros profile, because let's talk about it. It's a very well SEO placed website. So I still come up in the first results with my pros account. So by all means, do it, even though you don't have to rely on pros too much. Even if for some combinations it may work very well, as someone said before, for the Nordic languages or Scandinavian languages. Of course, you have to have sections that are clear and informative, and I'm not sure whether you're familiar with my website, but these are the basic bits and pieces. We didn't put much content because I get so bored by the overload of content, I don't want to even read it. So I just thought, I don't want too many sections either. I just want to make sure that people know. Oops, I just fell. Ouch. People want to know what you do, who you are, maybe if you frequently ask questions and contacts, that's all. But see, on the right-hand side, you have the phone, you have few information, so everything is there, and I don't think there has to be much more than this. Lower numbers on display, so you have, in this case, you have it on the left-hand side, but that was just a stylistic choice. I didn't go for the blue, because dark colors work very badly on websites, so you have to make sure it's very clear and it will work on any sort of brightness of the screen. Otherwise it'll be like a very black and dark page and people will think you're a goth or something, and it's a true story, sadly. So I've heard of people who actually said, why do you have such a dark website, you want like metal music? Like, what's the point? Why would I, what's the link between a dark page and, dark music, so to say? But it's true, it's true. I've heard about it. So it's just the impression, you have to make sure the colors are not too in your face. So the blue wasn't working. Full white was too much. So I went for something creamy that still is in the palette of the red, but is not full red. And the top is actually to catch your eye and to make sure that the logo stands out a bit more. Obviously, you have to have a palette in line with the branding where you can, and less is more, as I mentioned. But you have to make sure you can update it, otherwise it's not going to work. And the new Rainy London is coming next month or so. So I won't promise what's the date, but hopefully June. So let's stay tuned. This is a summary of the sections that I already told you. So I would say you need to have a CV or about page or tab. Services or tariffs, you may want to put them. I would suggest you don't, or at least you put a guideline starting at, and then you can decide, because every project's different. Multilingual version, section with videos or downloads with audio, especially if you're an interpreter or do voiceover like I do. People want to actually hear your voice before hiring you, so that's probably a good choice. And then your articles or downloadable PDFs or material that you may want to share. Integrated blog and tweets, that's a good idea, especially the feed, if it's not too invasive or big. And then a mix of actual areas. You may want to add a list of testimonials if you want. So it's up to you. The sections don't have to be standard, but I would suggest the about and the qualification and what we can do for you sort of page has to be there. Then the contact form, or book me, hire me, that's the call to action that you want people to see. So it has to be very big. So that's why the number, I put it on the right, and it's very big. So people just look for the information they want, and the average stay on the page is probably 30 seconds, if you're lucky. So if they find what they want, they'll call you or write you. So yeah, contact form, and make sure it works, because there's no worst thing that actually try to send an email and then it gives you an error and you just can't be bothered anymore. But what if I want to update it? How can you do it? Well, as I said, a CMS like WordPress or Blogger. Yeah, WordPress is the best. Actually, the last one, Posterous, is just shut down, so it doesn't exist anymore. It was nice, but WordPress is much more viable and it has plenty of plugins you can use. Custom CMS, of course, is a bit more complicated, but these days it's very easy, so you can kind of get a tutorial on YouTube and find your way out. If you go for a non-dynamic page, maybe that's what you want because you don't want to really update every CPD you do, you don't want to change anything, even though every year you're supposed to, no, just put it here. Every year you're supposed to update the copyright, saying what's the year, and if you have a limited company, you have to have your company address, and you have to update if you change the address. So some things needs to be updated, but again, you can have a static page that actually works for you, because that's, I mean, it doesn't have to be a static CV, that's another thing. But it has to be still a website, but mine, for example, for now, it's static. So it would be more dynamic soon, but that was the first choice. You may want to have several languages as well, but that's a bit more complicated in terms of coding, so it may take you more time or more money if someone's doing it for you. But depending what's your target, you may want to do that. I wanted to target it mainly to English. You want to translate into Italian, so that's why it's in English. Good sites. I'll just show you some. You can just download them or go to them. You have Marta, Megan Onions. I really like the palette she chose. It's very subtle. Some other good sites. The one on the right is an agency who's actually revamped the site very recently. And that blur thing there is changing images all the time, so that's very dynamic and keeps you engaged. This is Teresa again, I mentioned before. This is the branding of the freelance box I was telling you. So this is how the page is going to look. As you see, very minimal. Home, about us, events, and contact. So that's the main point you want to know. What's the freelance box? How does it work? Who we are, that's it. So that's going to be super minimal. And then here you have a call to action where you can register for the next event. So I think that this is what people want to see. I can't be bothered with too much content. I get bored. I don't want to read it. So I just want to go to the core and know exactly what you're selling me. Good sites, again, you see Kasha, as I mentioned before. She actually did it herself in WordPress. So if you like HTML, you have a penchant for it, you can go for it. It's going to be a bit long. Of course, it takes a few weeks to actually tweak it to the point you like it, but I guess it's doable. Obviously, if you're hopeless, just don't lose any time and don't waste any time on it. Just get some help, and because a bad result is not going to work for you. It's actually doing worse. Icons. Icons are a very good way to actually get your message across without being too boring. So you see here, I do have tabs on the side that actually gives you these actions, but I guess these are very simply what people want to see. Learn more, get a quote, contact me. So if you click, you go exactly to the page because maybe you're visual and you don't want to read all of it. Here you see the favicon I mentioned before, so that's a little icon there. And it's definitely a bit classy, like a classy touch, because not every site has it. Just focus on it. I'm sure that you will notice it now. Some food for thoughts on branding and some provocation I wanted to give you, because a logo is not a brand, as I told you before, and it doesn't need to say what a company does, because see the good examples here? Tiger Woods, I mean, his logo is not a golf ball, and Virgin Atlantic is not a plane for a logo, and Xerox is not a printer. So that doesn't really have to be what you do. Point two, what about removing the logo? Again, I'm mentioning David Airy, which is a very clever guy, and he has this blog where he shows all examples of branding that are very clever, and you wouldn't ever think about, for example, the FedEx logo. Do you know what the FedEx logo is? It actually has an arrow in it, in the middle, in between the F and the X, the Fed and the X. So I'm not sure whether I can show it to you now. I will later, but it's very clever. It's like an arrow of, you know, the delivery of a package of a box. So that's very clever. And removing the logo, you will know what that is. The ultimate objective for a great branding is creating an iconic identity that the logo is no longer required. Why, like the swoosh for Nike, I know it's a bit of a long shot, but anyway, just to provoke. But branding works very well with social media, and that's a given. I know we've been talking about social media this morning, so I'll try to be fairly quick on that. But I want you to read this. Think strategically. Can you read it? Yeah? It's big enough? Yeah? So social media has transformed the way we interact with consumers. We need to be very careful. We think long and hard about the tone and brand position, and we are sure we are consistent on all platforms. So who do you think said this? What brand said this? No guesses? No? I'll go. It's Selfridges. So basically, it's a department store selling luxury goods, and they actually have to make sure that everything they put on their social media is actually not screwing them up. I mean, that's reality. You have to make sure that the message is consistent and that people will read on all platforms, not the same post or the same message, but the same tone. So every time I post something from the Rainy London account, it's always going to have the same tone. I'm never going to be too pessimistic because that's not what I am. So it's always going to be engaging. It's always going to be a bit funny at least. But that's the consistency and the strategic approach to social media for your brand. You see, there are so many options, and we actually use it for socializing. That's what they were born for. But obviously, you will have friends or colleagues and contacts or uni mates all over the world, and that's what we mainly use it for. But I think this is a match made in heaven, because actually you can use it for your branding and save on marketing conventional solutions so much that I actually land clients on Twitter only without doing much. It's just people seeing you and tweeting about you, and then eventually you get recommended, like, oh, for Italian, why don't you try Rainy London? I'm sure she can help. So I did get a few jobs out of that, instead of just publishing an ad on a newspaper. Of course, it depends on the target, because again, if we take the famous lawyers we're talking about before, they probably won't be on social media too much, even if they are these days. But then you have to know how to take them. You can't really tweet all funny stuff to lawyers. So they may still read, they may still read the normal newspaper or the organization magazine that they work for, etc. So these are two examples of my Facebook and Twitter, you may know. Branding and social media are supposed to give you endless visibility. That's a key. And it is, because actually it's all out there, even though, for example, tweets have a very short life. So you have to make very relevant in what you tweet, because if the feed is very long, people won't even see it. So my choice went for Facebook and Twitter mainly, so these are the main platforms I use, but I also have all the others. So you can find me anywhere. Just put, name of social media and mine next to it, and I'll come up. So I just recently started using Foursquare, which I still haven't got the hang of, but I'm on that one as well. I just like it. So Pinterest, LinkedIn, and Google. LinkedIn is actually very important, but it has to be perfect. So there's no point having a neglected LinkedIn account. Otherwise, it's just useless. Don't even waste your time on it. Of course, for some, Pinterest and Google Plus may be useless. So just choose what you want. Because you need an organic strategy. So you have to think about what you're going to say and how. So no rants on Twitter, no bitching about your clients. You can't do that. So it's your personal brand. You don't want that. For more pictures, you can actually click on the link. I have a media set on Facebook with more examples of the various things. The benefits, these are the benefits that we're supposed to get from social media. Grow the brand awareness, then engage in the dialogue, because now social media are not a unidirectional sort of way to communicate. They actually engage the customer to make sure that you actually interact. And while you interact, you convince your customer that they have to choose you. So it's good to reply to every comment to make sure that you are there, because there's no point in having a page if you never go on it. And then more engagement means more sales, so more partnerships, and you can even get friends, out of this. It doesn't really have to be only business. And then eventually you can reduce the costs, because if you're very visible online, people won't even bother find you anywhere else. So someone asked me, but should I get a Yellow Pages profile? Not really, because I don't think it's reliable anymore. You can find a plumber, and all due respect, they do a great job, and without the plumbers, you need those, but you probably go for a recommendation or for someone local, or even the Yellow Pages. But I wouldn't look for a dentist on Yellow Pages. Maybe 10 years ago, but I guess it's a bit of a wasted money. You may want to do it, but just to try. Some of them are free, but there's not much point in my opinion. So let's ask ourselves a few questions. And I guess you're still thinking about the creative contest, right? You didn't forget about it. Social media, we can use them for something else. But which one can we choose, and how can we make the most of them? I'll try to reply to all of these. We use them for socializing, and that's easy. It's ideal for co-working projects. It's ideal for making new contacts. Obviously, it doesn't have to be used only for family. It's supposed to be like that for your personal account, but then there are plenty of choices for your career-wise. So for marketing, because you can access a much wider public, and that you couldn't even think of 3 or 4 years ago. Twitter wasn't even there 4 years ago, or 5 years ago maybe. 4 years ago? Can't remember. And for small, you can go big. Remember, Steve Jobs, Coca-Cola. The guy was making Coca-Cola, again, I think in a garage or something, and it was all secret about this formula, and we don't even know it now. So how big can you be? That's just, another cliche, sky's the limit. But that's true. You have to think big. And you can learn. I think some people actually use this Twitter, for example, just to learn about stuff going on. With all the hashtags, all the people who follow Traduemprende hoy, sorry, I'm switching all the time, today, they actually learn something new, I'm sure. Something was maybe obvious, but something was not. So I'm sure you can learn from everything you follow. And in 2009, there was a train tragedy in my hometown, and I was in the UK, of course, and around midnight, I saw all these Facebook status with people talking about disasters and stuff. So I realized that there was a crash, and something exploded, and 30 people died, blah, blah, blah. So to cut it short, you can actually be aware of tsunamis and all things before even reading a book or a paper or newspaper. So hopefully it's all good things and not bad things, but it's real time, so that's what it is for. You can read about translation events, publications, books, petitions, even CPD. All you read, you should file it for CPD. And actually, I think it can be done. Even when you go abroad, you can maybe file 1 hour of your time. Maybe you go on holiday to, Germany, if you work with German. You can file 1 hour out of every day you stay as a CPD for your language skills. So you're actually polishing your language skills abroad. Branding and social media. This is a page. It's a bit of an old screenshot. I think I'm over 1800 now. Yay. There's a few tips, quite general, but there are personal pages and fan pages. I have a fan page. I have fan page and a personal one. The personal one is restricted to people actually friends. And I have all sets of filters, so you can personalize as much as you can, and you can choose even that only one person can see your update. So you have to kind of fidget with it a little bit, but there's so many options, and you wouldn't be even aware without reading the tutorial. The fan page is more engaging, because even if it's more effort for you to monitor what's being said, people get there and can like you. So it's a bit more interactive, but and straightforward, because with the friendships, you have to actually ask for it, wait for the people to see, accept. It's a bit boring. I wouldn't actually wait that time. I like fast living. The look has to be in line with your identity, because of course, otherwise people won't connect to who you are. Already, it happens already that people actually don't know it's me behind Rainy London. I'm sure many of you didn't. So now I'm getting my face out there a bit more to make sure that they go, Valeria, it's raining London. And that's why you still have to keep all the identity consistent, because otherwise it's another page and people won't relate to it. But because it's a very young and fresh thing, you should keep it fresh. So I'm using the character everywhere because it's just not as boring and corporate as the normal logo. The info, well, as much as possible, fill in all the fields with your numbers, etc. But I probably wouldn't put the address, again, for the stalkers, etc. I did use a part of my postcode because for interpreting, people want to know where you are. Of course, if I live in central London and the assignment is in zone 6, I'm not going to go. They're not going to pick me. So instead of calling me, asking me, a bit disappointed, they will know I'm in SW1. So they will know immediately where I am. The post frequency is something that's a bit controversial because you may want to not tweet a lot and you'll be totally fine. You know, it's up to you, really. I think it's best to maybe tweet a couple of times a day, but even a couple of times a week is fine if that's what you want. It depends what you see in your Twitter account. You don't really have to be there all the time. If 2 a week work for you, fair enough. Just stick to what works. But I personally tweet way more than 2 tweets a day, but only today I probably overloaded the account. So yeah, don't post anything just to post because it's rubbish. People don't want to read. I mean, depends. If you had a very nice breakfast, maybe they want to know what you had, but not all the time. Less is more. Interaction has to be essential because especially with the fan page on Facebook, if people ask you something, they want to engage with you. Otherwise, they wouldn't bother asking in the first place. So you have to be proactive and keep on top of all the comments because otherwise it's pointless. You're just going to be seen as a soulless brand that doesn't care about the fans, which what fans are for. Fans want to actually be engaged. These are the 5 golden rules for Facebook that I found on a very interesting website, which is ninjamarketing.it. It's in Italian, but I translated it for you. Engage in a creative way. That's why I do contests. I post images. In any case, you can just be unexpected. I know I'm late. I know it's 15 minutes. Post highly viral content and then create a community adding some value to what you give because otherwise it's just a boring set of contents nobody wants to read. You can customize the page. You can give, for example, useful words or flashcards. You can do whatever you like with languages, really. And there are plenty of other sites that give you other options you can go for. Be fun, obviously, again, the experience and the sharing. And try to become a household name like John Lewis or Lady Gaga or whoever you want. Of course, yeah, it's a long way from us, but we can still try our best. Sorry, it goes like that again. Running a social media. This is a screenshot with the other accounts I take care of. So the first one is mine, and then I have the London Tweet Up, which is a sort of a powwow style meeting that I run in London every month. We are an average of 30 people all the time, so it's very good. It's been the past year. And that's the ITI Italian network that I run. So it's a network of Italian translators that are members of the ITI in the UK. This is Twitter, more or less the same concept as before. I'll try to be quick. You have to have a public profile, otherwise it's no nonsense. Customize the identity. Make sure you have a great background and a customized header. The bio should be true to what it is. But try to be funny and put the link to what you do so people can find you. Because people do check the bio, and if I see an empty bio, I won't be bothered to read any further, let alone follow you. Post frequency, again, you may want to post some a day, but just don't overload, and no spamming, because people just follow and read what they really like. Always quote the source and give the author the credit they deserve, otherwise you're just copying other people's links, especially if it's original content. Then the hashtag is essential. I'm not sure whether you've been tweeting, but I created another hashtag for the event of the ITI there, and then the translation and interpreting hashtags. So these are some of the common ones, but you can Google it, hashtags for translation, and plenty will come up. This is another good thing about social media, Twitter, but I'll skip that. So this is a lot of choices we have, and I'm on all of those apart from Blogger, which I don't really like. Posterous is dead, but Tumblr is nice, and WordPress is probably the best CMS you can go for. This is Español. I loved it. Don't you like it? En andaluz. I really like the mi arma. Mi arma me mata, vamos. Estupendo. Microsoft, estupendo. En fin. Fotolog no lo he visto nunca, no sé qué es, pero... El país, me encanta, vamos, estupendo. Okay. So branding and social media, you can stay on top of all this I've talked to you about. With TweetDeck, which is a client, does not support LinkedIn anymore, unfortunately. Hootsuite does. It's another good client, and it comes even for iPhone, Android, etc. But I use it on desktop. Twitter for iPhone is good. I don't know about the Android, sorry. Echophone, other clients, so many. You can try whichever you like. They're mostly free. You can link your content to Facebook onto Twitter. So any post that goes on Facebook shows immediately on Twitter and vice versa on both platforms. Some people are against it. I'm actually in favor because I think that you have to be consistent. Of course, if fulano me sigue en todas plataformas, se va a hartar. Pero what happens is that you still have to be consistent. Maybe it's a very important update and you want it to be all over your platforms. Maybe it's something that you just want to go to give to your Twitter people, so you'll just put it on Twitter. So you have to choose, but I would say that maybe 2 or 3 a day can be on both platforms, especially if it's a picture or if it's a big event you're talking at and you want a big spreading. You can plan your weekly posts. Buffer is also integrated in Facebook. If you if you share something, it'll give you the option of buffering it. So in a few hours, it will do it for you. It will post it automatically. But it's also on desktop, so you can Google buffer and it will come out. Never forget that more marketing, hopefully, more money. So it's all the time you invest. And this is a good example of when are the busy hours and non-busy hours for Twitter and Facebook. I think it depends on the business as well. Most people won't be checking Twitter in our industry on Saturday, but because it's Saturday. Then again, for example, in the fashion field, they mostly do events on a Saturday or Sunday, and different timing because of the time zone. So if something's going on in Los Angeles, or there is, I don't know, the Oscars, people will be tweeting anytime. So it depends on your industry. And for us, most people tweet from home when they're working, which doesn't sound really good work-wise, but that's what we do, don't we? Engagement rate. Social media, well, I'll just show you what I use. Pinterest. I have a board for learning Italian. I post every other week something in Italian with a picture that relates to Italy for people to learn. This is my LinkedIn, which is very, very important. You have to have a fairly professional picture. So invest 100, 200 euros, get it done by a professional because it really is worth it. I got myself a tutorial course with Anna Mantidis, who's running a very nice LinkedIn seminar and webinar. And she told me, well, your profile is good, but I really like the photo. So that was the thing that actually did it for her. So I guess that the most professional your picture looks, the more seriously people will take you. I mean, it doesn't have to have any puppies. It doesn't have to be you in the gym. It doesn't have to be you in a bikini or with a sangria. So nothing like that. Professional. That's what it is for. LinkedIn is great for that. You can be headhunted and it's great. But you have to have it done to perfection. So invest time in LinkedIn. Google Plus, I mean, don't bother. I don't like it very much. But it's Google, so I want it to be indexed. So that's why I keep it. It's good to have your name so nobody will steal your username. Make sure you buy. You get all the usernames you can. I wanted Rainy London translations for Skype, and it's taken. No, sorry, Rainy London is taken. I'm like, who are you? How dare you take my name in Skype? So I can't use that, and it's going to be Rainy London translations, but still. This is Tumblr. It's great for blogging, but mainly photo blogging. And I like taking pictures in my spare time when I have any. And this is a little collection of pictures about London, so to stay in the theme of the logo and everything. Instagram is the same if you have, a smartphone. Vine, I'm still discovering Vine. Taking short videos is great. It's very cool, but maybe you don't want to bother, because it depends. If you do something very visual, or if you want to maybe promote yourself in a very short way, you can do it. I think they're visible even if you're not signed up, so I can try and send some links for you to see what I've showed. I've showed one nice video was me making coffee, so people know how in Italy you make coffee with the machine. That was quite nice, and people actually retweeted it, and it was funny to watch. This is again about me, or visualize me, other options to have your CV online, and the one on the right can be linked to LinkedIn, so that's good. It just draws all the information from LinkedIn, so you just don't have to do anything. Management and planning, because if you're a control freak, you want to have everything under control. On the right you have Twitter for Mac, which is good and simple, but then again TweetDeck, Hootsuite, as I said before, or Buffer to keep everything under control and post it for you. Again, maybe this all is not for you. You don't want to be everywhere, because you don't have to be. So just choose what works for you, but always be relevant. So no pictures of you, yo in the gym. Be true to yourself, so no Vine if you're camera shy. I mean, there's no point in taking pictures if you don't like taking pictures or videos. Less is more sometimes, so don't pester, don't post too much, based on who you're following and what you want to achieve. And stick to what works, because if old school is good, well, if it ain't broken, still use it. Bookmarking is very good, and you should all have Pocket. Pocket is great. It's like a bookmarking like you do on your favorites on your desktop, but you can have it on mobile, and it updates and sync everywhere else. So it's great. I love that. Stumble Upon is also quite used, but I prefer Pocket. Online lists, links, management, you can update and divide them in folders. It's so cool. I have so many to read, I can't even start. Cloud. Cloud is, it's not really social media. It's a social tool that measures your influence online. So it takes the analytics of your networks and analyze all the data taken from the sites you're on, and it will tell you how influential you are. It's probably useless, but it gives you an idea of who's doing what and what are the topics that trends the most in your industry. So you'll see I'm trending for marketing or for branding or fashion even. I mean, depends. And these are the 36 rules, but I'll just give you 5. Number 10, people will rather talk to Rainy London's Val than just Rainy London, because of course it's your personal brand. 17, update your media or delete them. So there's no point having a LinkedIn that hasn't been updated for 2 years and it has your picture, when you were baptized, there's no point. 8, always write back, engage with your fans or your followers, whoever, and always try to reply if they comment on you and tag you. 21, social media doesn't exist in a vacuum, so make sure that they work conventionally as well. So in pair with all the other things you're doing. If you write articles on the local newspaper, well, you still have to make them consistent. And number 7, social is 24/7, never goes on holiday. So I know we like to go, but it's really difficult. So if you just don't go on Twitter for 2 weeks, I mean, there's no way you can catch up if you want to catch up. So again, depends what works for you. Maybe you don't want to catch up and it's all right, but don't expect it to be, very engaging if you don't go there every week. So not every day, maybe 2 or 3 posts a week if you really don't want to use it very much. Self-promotions, so it's not only design. We'll be launching lectures and courses. There'll be in-person courses in London, but we may want to do webinars or we may want to do streaming. So just stay tuned, and hopefully next week we'll have all the information you may need. Food for thoughts, that's me on the right. My designer did it. I don't really wear glasses, but that's it. Twitter Power is a great book. Buy it now. Practical Guide to Social Media, Marta Stelmaszak. Sorry, your surname is wrong. I mistyped. Yeah, it's wrong. Sorry. Twitter guide from Babla. Some various blogs. HubSpot is very good. And then Rework. Rework is a great book. And there is one in Spanish. Translation as well. So you can read it in Spanish too. But in English is very cool. That's all. But I know we don't have any time, but I have plenty of little cards to show you, so I'll put them there. You can have a look. But if you have questions, shoot now or never. Thank you.